Balance isn't about having it all together. It's about giving yourself grace. Hey friend, you're listening to Balancing the Scales, the podcast where we dive into real life, real talk, and real moments. I'm Tammy, wife, millennial mama of 2, and your new audio bestie. This is the space where we can talk about juggling the beautiful chaos of life, from friendships to relationships to having conversations about parenting and love and marriage to even some pop culture tea and everything in between that may cause the scales to tip sometimes. Because let's be honest, the juggle is real and you are not alone. So wherever you're listening from, grab your tea, your coffee, or your wine. I've got my cup too. It's time to turn the mic on and let's get into today's episode. Hello, fam. You're listening to Balancing the Scales. Thank you for joining me. If this is your first time, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining the conversation. And if not, and if you listened before, thanks for coming back. Thanks for sticking around. And let's get into it. Let's start off with our scale check. So which way are the scales weighing today? Are we feeling lifted up? Are we feeling weighed down? How was the past week for everyone? I know the start of November, with everything happening in the world, there's a lot that's happening. I don't want to get too political on here just yet, but I hope you guys or know of anyone who's struggling during this time, and especially it's around like the beginning of holiday season, which is terrible timing. But I hope you guys are doing well. Let's help one another. Let's be there to support each other in any way that we can. Even if you're struggling yourself, there's probably someone out there whose burden is a little bit more heavier, who's probably struggling a lot more than you. So let's try to just support and be a community for one another and just send help where you can. I'm part of this mom group, this amazing mom group called the Mom Circle, and in other mom groups, especially on Facebook. And I've just been seeing some moms offering their help and services to other moms and families who are struggling for this time of like not receiving certain benefits to help feed and support their family, their babies. I know there are other mothers out there who can't find a way to afford like formula for the month or just regular groceries to feed their kids, their little ones, and other moms are out there sharing of being like a shopping buddy or asking where they could donate to. I know I've seen some people that I followed mention of local food pantries that they're supporting or helping fill up these food pantries. So let's just do our part if you can and look up where you can help out and support these other families, because as I said, this is the season of giving, of being thankful, of being blessed for what you have. And there's a lot of other people out there who are less than us, especially at this moment. So I just want to start off by saying that there is a little bit of a hard time, but just open your heart for one another. And I guess this podcast, the audience is a lot of moms. So as from one mother to another, it's going to be okay. There's going to be a way out of it, and just let's rely on one another in this time. So, and let's be thankful for what we have as well. Just want to start off by saying that. So my week so far has been a little bit less chaotic going into a new month, a new week. I mentioned in, I think, the last episode that I was going to a Knicks game with my husband for his late birthday gift, and we did, and the Knicks won, which is great. I'm just going to read their stats off my phone because I really didn't fully pay attention. I was really there for the food, right? But the Knicks, it was the Knicks versus the Wizards. We went last Monday at the Garden, and the final score was Wizards 102, Knicks 119. So it was a great game. Like, I love going to the Knicks game. The environment at the Garden is great. The vibes, again, the food. And the food, I think, has changed. Or because we were in a different section, the food options probably were better. But I think the last game we went to was maybe like 2016. It's been a while, but this one was a fun game, and I know my husband enjoyed himself. I did. It was great to have like a night off. Thankful to the grandparents for watching the babies, and they had a sleepover at their grandparents' house. Win for us. But it was just fun to just, just be with each other and just have our minds taken off parent duty for a couple hours. And to top it off, the Knicks winning. They had a strong lead, like 20 points. At one point of the game, they were ahead like 20 points. Then I think my husband said at one point even 40 points lead. I don't know all the stats. I don't know if I'm saying all this correctly. I don't even know a lot of the players. The only one I know of is Jalen Brunson and Carl Anthony Towns. And I only know of him because he's dating Jordan Woods. I was trying to keep my eyes open out for her, but didn't see her, or maybe where I was sitting I couldn't see. But we were a pretty close section. I had to do it big for my man. We got a section like 100 or something, so we were pretty close to the court. We also saw Nick from Love Island. He was there. They also did other celebrities for Celebrity Row. I think someone from The Godfather was there that night. I don't remember what actor, but those are some of the celebrity spottings that we saw. During, I guess when you guys are watching on TV, during the commercials, for the spectators or those who are at the game, they have little games in between, like the commercial breaks, contests. They have the cameras going around trying to get the fans on the Jumbotron, the t-shirt throwing the t-shirt throwing part of the game, where they're like launching the shirts out to the fans to get them. They're using like those big shooting cannons to get the shirts out. Of course, it's never in the section you're sitting at to grab a shirt. I really thought we were close enough to get a Knicks shirt, but that didn't happen. But my highlight of the night was the halftime show. It was performed by the cast of the current cast of the Broadway show Hamilton, and they did my favorite song off the soundtrack, off the show, which is the Schuyler Sisters. Now, when I sing along to the Hamilton soundtrack, you couldn't tell me that I'm not Angelica hitting those high notes. And best believe that's what I did live at the game during halftime. My husband looked so annoyed with me, but I was singing along with the cast like I was part of the show. I love the soundtrack. Like, I'm so upset I got into Hamilton as late as I did. I wasn't into it. I didn't even know about it when it first came out. I think like 2010, around that time. But obviously it got like a resurgence during 2020 during the pandemic when it came out on Disney Plus. And at that time, over the summer when it was released, I was on maternity leave from my first baby. So that's what we were watching. It came up and we're like, oh, let's watch it and see. And from the first moment, oh my God, I was going to say Anthony Hamilton. From the moment Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda, opened his mouth for the first note of the show, I was glued. And we've watched this movie so many times. I have played this soundtrack on my phone so many times. I'm just humming along to it. Like, I even used to sing it as like little anecdotes and lullabies to my son to get him to do something. Like, I would say, to the room, like just to get him into the room for nighttime instead of to the groom for that scene when oh my God, when Hamilton and his wife got married. I'm brain fart right now, but that whole scene when they're giving the toast to them after getting married, like, that is my jam. That whole soundtrack is my jam. But the Schuyler Sisters, just the upbeat, the tempo, all of that, love that song. So when those cast members came out and that's what they performed during halftime, I was glued. I got my food beforehand because I didn't even know they were going to be the halftime performance until I think like the day before. You get information about the game and what to bring and security checkpoints and all this stuff. And then I saw that it said halftime, a performance by the cast members of the Broadway show Hamilton. And I was like, what? And my husband's like, oh, you're so going to love this. I was like, absolutely. So when we went to the game, of course, we got there late, but not too late. We got there like second quarter. And I was like, I'm getting all my food now. I'm getting my drinks now, because come halftime, I'm not leaving. I'm going to see this. And I did. I mean, it wasn't like the theatrical aspect of it. They weren't dressed in costume. They just had on basic, like, everyday outfits, whatever. But their voices, even these actors, I don't know their names. I should have looked it up before I said it. But they're the current cast for the current running of Hamilton on Broadway. And I guess the casting experience must be rigorous, because they are hitting the exact notes as the original cast members. And it was just flawless. Or maybe I couldn't really hear them because I was really singing out loud. Embarrassing, but that was the halftime show. And then once they were done, the game continued. And then the next one. And I think, let me pull up their stats now. From what I'm seeing, we went on a Monday night game. They had a game again on a Wednesday and this past Sunday. So it looks like they've been winning since we went. You're welcome, Knicks. I'm not saying, I bring the good vibes and the good juju, but maybe my presence being at Madison Square Garden that night did something. But let's keep it up. Yeah, so the Knicks have been winning the past 2 games. And by the time I'm currently recording this podcast on a Tuesday, they have a game also tonight against the Grizzlies. So let's go Knicks. Go New York, go New York, go. So also, what's been going on this week? Just getting ready and continuing the holidays and getting ready for all the holidays and the holiday traditions. Actually, what's been going on this week? I did attend one fun mom event. So I mentioned earlier in the opening of this opening that I'm part of this mom group. Shout out to the Mom Circle. They had for us moms in the group like a coffee connection meetup at our local coffee shop, which is also run by one of the moms of the group and her husband. They opened up a new local coffee shop across from the mall in my town, in one of the neighboring towns. And there was a coffee connection meetup on Saturday morning. And I actually had the opportunity to go to one of these events. Usually when they have them, it's like during the week and the hours don't work because I also work full time and I commute to work. But this one, I was able to go because my husband had a different work schedule. And it was so cool to finally meet these moms in person, because we're talking through text and all this stuff. And it's different to have that connection over the phone versus in person. And it was a good little group. I think they were supposed to have like a pelvic floor therapist or speaker. I guess she canceled, which is fine. So it was more of like a chit chat and catch up and meet. For me, it was like a meet and greet. Again, I haven't met any of them, so it was cool just to get the connection out there. Of course, I did tell them that I started this podcast. So if a lot of those moms are listening to this podcast now because of the event this past Saturday, hi, and thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. But it was good and refreshing just to do something for myself. I didn't have the kids. They stayed home with dad. But to talk to other moms and hear their stories and little tidbits and to joke and to talk, even if it was briefly, it was like, I think I stayed maybe at most 2 hours. But to sip some hot coffee and not let it run cold, to eat my little, it's like a little Nutella cube. It was so delicious. To eat that by myself and not to worry about sharing my food felt great. But to just have that connection with other moms, I think this is such a great, positive mom group, because I've heard of other mom groups out there how, certain groups could be catty and judgmental, but this mom circle that I'm part of is anything but that. Very supportive and informational as well, and judgment free, which I love. And even though like the texts are going on through all hours of the day, it's like we all understand each other if we ask a question and it's like 24 hours later someone's responding, because we're all balancing, juggling kids and a household. Some moms are working outside of the house, some moms are working in the house, some probably are single moms. But to just know that at the end of the day there's a little bit of a community, a group that supports you, that understands you, was very refreshing, and I was glad I was able to attend that. So thank you to, I guess I should shout out her name, Delisha, for even starting this group and doing all the things that she's doing within the group, within the community. I know it's a lot for her. She's juggling her own kids, her own career in life, plus that on top of it. So super mom over there. But it's such a beautiful thing to know that there are other women who are like-minded or going through the same things that you're going through, the same seasons, without feeling judged. And that was a great way to kind of wrap up my week, to know that I had that event to look forward to all week, and it was just great. It was the conversations were funny. We talked about nothing and everything and hearing other stories, and to know that you're really not alone, and which is similar to what I'm doing with this podcast by sharing my stories, my personal experiences, to just know that there could be a mom out there that's feeling the exact same way, but might not be able to voice it or don't know how to voice it. I just hope that whatever I talk about reaches you, and you know that you're not alone and that you can do this and you will get through this. And I guess my voice is your voice for that reason. And maybe that's what this podcast is meant to be about. So to all the moms out there, and I'm speaking to the moms specifically, keep going. You got this. I've got you. We'll do this together, and you're not alone. So let's get right into today's episode. Today's episode is going to be a love letter to my younger self, 25-year-old Tammy. I've been 35 for about a month now, and I figured that 25-year-old Tammy deserved a conversation about love, loving yourself, and knowing that your future is bigger than you have imagined. It's different than what you've planned, but it's definitely fulfilling in the best way possible. 25 is that age where you think you're grown, where you think you have it all figured out. I sure thought I did. 25 is that age where you think you know what love is, what success should look like, what my future family was going to look like. I did have a 5-year plan. It didn't go according to that plan, but there was a derail in my plan and what was already destined for me to be. So to my younger self, it's going to be okay. And here's the conversation that I would love to have with you. At 25, I remember feeling like I had everything together. I was working hard. I was still in college, working on my bachelor's degree, working on completing my bachelor's degree at that time. That was plan number one that was derailed because I should have graduated at 22. But I took some time off due to health issues and just figuring my life out at that time. I transferred out of 2 different schools. I already had my associates, but I was working on my bachelor's, so I was just kind of all over the place with my education. I did switch majors. I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with my education, and I dabbled in a little things, but I always was working. I was working hard on trying to prove who I was to myself while also trying to look like I had it all figured out. I am a type A type of person. That's the personality that I have. So I had to look like I had it all together on the outside. That facade that I had to prove to people that I had it together. Definitely was a people pleaser. And I've learned along the way to definitely drop that mentality. I didn't realize, though, at that time, how much pressure I was putting on myself to be perfect, to move too fast for my own doing, and to check all the boxes that society said I should have had at that time of being 25. For a woman at the age of 25, let alone a black woman at 25. The world is telling you, society is telling you to live a certain way, the traditional way of living. 25, I definitely thought I would have been married. I should have had a kid by that time. I definitely should have graduated and finished college. I should have been well into my career, whatever that looked like. But that wasn't in the cards for me. That wasn't what was dealt. And at that time, 10 years ago, it was a completely different world than what we were taught as little girls. From pretty much the womb, or from by the time girls are walking or in school, we are shown, we are taught that we go to school, you graduate high school at 17, 18, 4 years of college, boom, you enter what should be the workforce if you want to work, meaning as a career woman, I mean, or even any type of career really, or be a homemaker and meet a man, fall in love, have the babies, and that was it by the time you're 25. At least that's what I was taught. That's what was shown to me. That was the romanticized life that I saw and that should have happened to me. That was my plan, to be honest. I am a hopeless romantic. I romanticize my life even now. Definitely did back then. I know for me, it was pretty much that same trajectory of elementary school, high school, college, graduation, degree. In between that, meet a man, fall in love. I think at that time I was like 22. I'll be done with college. 23, I should be at least engaged for 1 year. Married by 25, have my first kid at 26. Boy, did God laugh at my plan, because obviously it didn't happen that way for me. But that's what I was kind of working towards, and that's what I envisioned for myself. And I was crazy. Looking back on it, that was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking, and I was definitely deeply into that because growing up, again, that's what I was taught. That's what I saw. That's what was kind of not passed down to me, but that's what I saw in my own family, definitely in the movies and the TV, but that's all I knew, and I wanted that experience for me. I didn't know any better. Looking back now, I just want to hug her. I want to tell her to breathe, to slow down, that she doesn't have to have everything figured out right now, because the beauty is in the becoming. I used to compare myself so much to everyone around me. Everyone seemed to be getting engaged, buying houses, having babies. You know, the life that I thought I had wanted for myself, the life that I was planning for myself. But of course, that's not how it went. And I was always left thinking, like, what am I doing wrong? I always felt like every decision that I was going to make was the decision, and was it going to steer me in the direction of that quote unquote happily ever after that I thought, that I was dreaming that I should have had by now. I didn't realize that everyone's journey unfolds differently. I remember sometimes scrolling on social media, like Facebook was still big at that time, and thinking like, man, she's already married? Oh wow, she has a kid? I was still in that mentality that we were still in high school, because 10 years from 25, well, 10 years back of 25, we were 15. And I was still having that high school mentality that I still felt like I was a kid. And now these kids are having kids, but I always felt like I was left behind. Also to note that at 25, I was dating my husband. We were a good 5 years into our relationship. We met when I was 18, really started dating at 19, around 2009. So when I was 25, that was 2015, we were pretty much into our relationship. And I remember telling him constantly at that time, like, what are we doing? You know, that female, I guess, intuition, like, Are we just playing games? Or are we dating with intention of a future together? I specifically remember at 25 sending him pictures of different types of rings that I was interested in. The conversation of marriage was definitely heavy around here. Our relationship at that point I felt was reaching that limit where I was like, okay, what's going on? We're not kids anymore. I felt grown. I thought we were grown. So I'm like, we got to do this grown people talk. Let's talk engagement. Let's talk about our future. Where are we going with our jobs, our careers? Like, I was spiraling in those thoughts because of what I was seeing online. Damaging. I know, but that's what was going on in my brain. And at 25, my frontal lobe was not developed yet. So of course I was heavily influenced by what I was seeing. And that was a distraction for me of the bigger things, the bigger plans, God's time. Definitely was not my time. We didn't sync in that part, and I was rushing it. And I really should have soaked in the moment a little more, but hey, you live and you learn, right? I tell my younger self, don't lose yourself trying to be someone else's peace. Be your own peace first. You teach people how to love you by how you love yourself. And now, as a mom and as a wife, I see that and I understand that more than ever. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup. And self-love isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. I wish I would have reminded myself or said to myself, why am I doing a lot of the stuff that I was doing? Why am I thinking this way? Yes, I know it's society, but it was just like, what benefit would it have brought me if I were to be married at that time? I definitely wasn't ready for marriage. I definitely wasn't ready for kids. But why the rush? That brings me to that question, like, why the rush? Why is society always trying to rush our childhood, rush our adulthood, rush our moments? We need to start cherishing and soaking in moments because tomorrow is never promised. And I think that just comes with age to come to that understanding. But boy, I wish I could go back, or I wish I had someone kind of tell me at that time to like slow it down a little bit and embrace who I was and learn about who I was. Learn more about Tammy. Love myself a little more because I definitely was insecure. I definitely didn't know about being someone's peace because my mind wasn't at peace. I wasn't at peace with myself. It was like I felt like there was a competition going on, but who am I competing with? Myself or with society? And at 25, it's definitely an insecurity that you carry on. I think that's for everyone. I mean, I'm speaking mostly on the female's perspective, but I could see that happening for both male and females. It's definitely an insecurity that you have at that age because your mind, I don't want to be incorrect, but I feel like your mind isn't fully developed yet. You're still learning about yourself. You're still learning about the world. This is the age of becoming, and this is also the age of being independent and a lot more responsibility being thrown onto you. And I don't think anyone has any right at that age of 25, that's such a baby age, to feel like they have it all together. I mean, if you do, that's great. Tell me how you did it, or, share the knowledge with others out there. I understand there are certain circumstances of different family lifestyles, different family dynamics, but in my world, my suburban upbringing, that wasn't the case for me. It was very much of the traditional route, and I fell right into that thought process. Back then, I equated strength with silence. I definitely didn't know how to ask for help without feeling like I was failing. And one of those moments I felt like I failed was when I didn't graduate college on time. Again, whose time? Who says that you have to graduate at that specific age? Things happen. Life happens. People could change their mind. And back then, I don't think it was as accepting as it is now to take like a year off, I should say. It wasn't as known or as common or as accepting back then. As I was saying earlier, it was the go to school, college, get a degree, get a career, fall in love, have babies, happily ever after, the end. But when I wasn't graduating with my class that I started with, college with, or when I saw in my group of friends, they were getting their degrees, and then from there, they were working in their field, I felt like I failed. I felt like I failed my family. I felt like I failed myself. I felt like I failed my man because he was with me. And he got his degree. He's older than me, yes, but he got his degree on time. And again, coming from a traditional Haitian household, my Haitian people, Haitian girls, you could feel me on this one. That pressure of completing school to become, a working woman, or a working woman who then becomes a wife and a mom, is heavy. That weight is heavy. That burden is heavy. Because our parents, their parents, our ancestors, that's all they've known is like an education will get you far. Yes, I agree. I'm taking that with me to take to my children, but not at that timeline. And that failure, I felt hearing like sometimes my parents talking to their friends or to colleagues or whoever in like social settings, people will ask like, did Tammy, she finish college yet? And they will be like, no, she has like another year left or another semester. Not like it was anyone's business, but that's what I would hear. And I know my parents are proud of me, and they were proud of me for continuing with school, but maybe this is my own insecurities from that, but I felt like I embarrassed them and I failed them because I didn't get that degree. But the people around them that they knew, their kids were done with school and, well into their careers at this time, because again, I'm 25. I should have been at least 3 years into my career, into my job, but it wasn't happening. And then another point too is we are taught, or it's known, like once you're 18, you leave the house. You graduate high school, that's when people are away at school, and then from school they find their own house, living with roommates, they're moved out. I guess not, I don't want to use the word bad. I can't find the word right now. I'm recording this podcast very late at night. It's been a long day, so I have brain fog is happening. I digress. But living with your parents still at 25 and not married to Haitians, oh my God. It was like the world was ending, right? It was just like, I want to be politically correct, and I don't want to step on any toes here, but I just felt like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it was such a heavy thing to still be living at home in your mid-20s, because 25, you're in your mid-20s, you're not done with school, you're not married, you've been with this man for 5 years, what is wrong with you? And it was like that stigma was like, oh, what is wrong with me? Then you start questioning yourself, and then you start looking around the other people in your community, or those people that you associate with, or your peers, and you see them like checking the box of degree, moving out of my house, moving out of my parents' house, buying a house, working in my field where I got my degree in. I just had my first kid. And it was just like, what is wrong with me? Like, you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you can't help but question your own issues. Like, okay, something must be wrong. And those thoughts were definitely going through my mind at that time. And then from that thought of what is wrong with me, that's where the pressure of I've got to finish this by this time. I give myself X amount of months to finish this, to get this job, to work in this field. Also, at that time, I did give my husband, who was my boyfriend at that time, I did give him an ultimatum. I was like, look, if by the next several months we're not engaged, I don't think this relationship is gonna go any further. And I'm looking back, it was just like, why? Like, girl, what is wrong with you? But I didn't know any better. Oh, so young and so naive. I didn't know. I was just only going by my quote unquote the book. Who wrote this book? I don't know, but that's what I was going by. It definitely brought out a lot of my insecurities and rushing certain situations, rushing my timeline for no reason, and brought up a lot of anxiety in me, which brought in anxiety in my relationships with my friends, relationships with my man, definitely with my parents, because then I was battling with them, like trying to have them understand where I was coming from while they're telling me and parenting me from where they're coming from. So that's where that conflict happened in my household of not completing. And then because I also had I have a younger brother who's 8 years younger than me. It was more of a, what kind of example are you setting for your brother that he's seeing his sister not completing college at this time? Or how does it look to, oh, this was a wild one. How does it look to have a man, my boyfriend, who's not my husband, coming over the house this late, your parents' house this late? That's not a great example you're setting for your brother, and all this stuff. It was just like, man, okay, I'm working on it. I'm working on trying to move out, or the thought of moving out, but don't move in with your boyfriend. That's a no-no. Don't move in if you guys aren't married. You can't move in with a boyfriend. But that's a whole different conversation, right? On the topic of not asking for help, or if I did ask for help, I felt like I was failing. I often felt that by asking for help, I felt like I was failing. I had to keep things bottled up, thinking being independent meant doing it all alone. And I think that's also a cultural thing, where as Black women, we have to always be the strong one. Don't dare ask for help. That just shows a sign of weakness, and you can't be weak out in these streets. True, to a certain extent, but at 25, I didn't have to have it all together. I didn't have to always be the strong one, but that was the mentality that I was going with, that if I needed help with either an assignment, or when it comes down to work, or just anytime felt like I had to question what I was doing, it was showing like a sign of weakness and that I can't do it, that I wasn't capable of being independent out in the real world. I wish I could go back and tell 25-year-old Tammy that it is definitely okay to ask for help. You need the help. You can't have everything together. Not everything has to fall on your shoulders, and you can't do it alone. It takes a community. And again, to reiterate, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I wish that 25-year-old Tammy knew that every setback, every job you didn't get, every promotion that was missed, the delay in graduating from college, it all connects. The question that I would always ask myself of why is this happening to me should have been like, why is this happening for me? But now I see that it was happening for me. Every detour led me to where I am, the woman, the mom, and the creative that I am today. And I wouldn't trade those lessons for anything. So, to 25-year-old Tammy, it's okay if you don't have everything all together. I'm closing my eyes as I'm saying this because I really want to just go back to where it was and how I felt at 25. I was in love with my boyfriend, who's now my husband. I was deeply in love. 25 was a great age. There was a lot of freedom, there was a lot of flexibility, but there was a lot of uncertainty. I was so unsure, so insecure, but I couldn't show it because that just showed that I wasn't capable or ready for the real world. In retrospect, I wasn't. I still don't think I really am. But I just learned to grow a tougher skin. 25-year-old Tammy, it's okay to let things go. You don't have to be perfect. Perfection doesn't equate to greatness. It's okay to fail. It's okay to stumble. You'll make mistakes along the way, but they are lessons learned. My grandma, God, I miss her. Her clocks were never on the right time. She never followed daylight saving time. She always would say to me, there's no time like God's time. And with God's time, I'm always on time. And I remember her saying that to me as definitely a teenager. Early 20s, she lived with us. So she was constantly saying that because I would always be like, Glenn, why isn't your clock the right time? You're going to be late or you're going to miss your show. And she'd be like, she called me Mumun. And she would be like, Mumun, in Creole, of course, but I'm not going to say it on here. But she would just respond back by saying, there is no time like God's time. And I'm always on time with God's time. And I wish I would have really realized what she meant with that now. God, I don't want to cry. It just hit me. Why was I rushing and whose time was I on? Because God already has my life mapped out and planned out. The time I got married was the time I got married at 29. When I had my first child was when I was supposed to. I was supposed to go through becoming a mom during the pandemic. That was already destined for me. I was supposed to go through the health journey I had after my son and now after having my daughter 4.5 years later. I was supposed to go through that. But back then, I was battling with not just myself, but with also God on trying to do things on my schedule and not being open to what was already out there and mapped out and planned and destined for me. Which goes on to also say, there's a saying or a quote, however you want to go, that if you're late, it's because God was stopping you from something terrible happening or something bad happening. Something like that. I mean, I guess I take it to heart sometimes because I'm always late. I've always been late. And being a mom, don't expect me to ever be on time. But when I learned about that quote, that saying, that like, if you're running late or if you leave your house and you go back in, it's because God was stopping you from something else happening. And sometimes when that happens, I do pause for a moment. And that's when I reflect and like, okay, I'm supposed to be here at this moment for a reason. If I could sit across from 25-year-old Tammy, I would tell her, you are enough. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You will outgrow people. You will outgrow places and even parts of yourself, and that's okay. but trust in yourself.
See you in the next episode.
Trust in your intuition. It will take you far. You'll find your voice. You'll become a wife. You will become a mom. You'll discover that peace matters more than perfection. Your plan will happen, but not the way you planned it. Your plan will happen, but not at the time you planned it. Trust in yourself because you're a lot stronger than you give yourself credit for. So to 25-year-old Tammy, to 25-year-old me, from 35-year-old me, thank you for being brave. Thank you for trying. And thank you for never giving up, even when you didn't know what the next step looked like. Wow, I did not expect to get so emotional already in like the third episode of this podcast, but here we are. That was a little unexpected. In true Libra fashion, I am an emotional person. I wear my emotions, my heart on my sleeves. I am also 9 months postpartum, so my hormones, my emotions are all over the place. I'm pushing through it, but naturally that's just me. I could cry at the drop of a dime, tear, cry at commercials, as I've been told, but it's okay. This is who I am. It's okay to be emotional at times. But thank you so much for listening, and I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear what you would tell your 25-year-old self, or even what you would tell yourself from 5 years ago, from even 1 year ago, because you're not the same person. You're not even the same person that you were last week. You're always evolving, and you're evolving to a better you. And to those who are listening in their 20s, in your mid-20s, and you're still trying to figure out life, it's okay to pause, to breathe, and to take it one day at a time, because you are exactly where you're supposed to be in this time, and it will all work out. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and as always, the scales may tip, but you're still standing. Thanks for listening. Talk soon. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Balancing the Scales with Tammy A. Make sure you follow us on all socials at balancingthescales.pod. See you in the next episode.